I've just realised this is very, very bright as well. So, this one's called Shadows over Azeroth. The villain, Sibelian. Story. Okay, here we go, story. Pre-patch. Players and the other characters that came back from Shadowlands are invited to a party by Wrathion. Wrathion, in a private conversation between him, Anduin, and the player, talks about sharing a discovery he has made now that things are cooling down. Party is crashed by a void-corrupted Sibelian, possibly mind-controlled, possibly gone mad, who takes over the Blackrock Spire with the help of the Infinite Dragons. Everyone escapes and regroups in Shadowforge City. Wrathion is injured and needs time to recover. Opening cinematic. Sibelian uses Nefarian's lab to resurrect Malygos. So we're having Malygos be resurrected now. So Malygos is being resurrected. Expansion proper. A mysterious blast of magic seen off the coast of Quel'Thalas gives back the dragon aspects their power, and the main story consists of a succession crisis of the Black Dragon fight with Wrathion and Sibelian competing on becoming the new Black Aspect. Wrathion recruits the players, Anduin, the Explorers League and the Reliquary to do some archaeology on the Dragon Isle and find the heart of the first whelp, a tiny gem that can channel the nature magic of all creatures, including wild gods and lowers on Azeroth, into the one who consumes it. I don't know about that one. All while Sibelian is trying to resurrect Galakrond as a chromatic dragon using a mix of Nefarian's research and void magic. There are also other problems the other dragon aspects have, like Chromie trying to find out why and how the Infinites are working for Sibelian, and Nozdormu being of no help whatsoever. That's worded really strangely. Yeah, and how the Infinites are working for Sibelian, and Nozdormu being of no help whatsoever. Kellic dealing with Malygos and maybe bringing him back to our side. Ysera finding some terrible revelations about Elune and fighting off Void Corruption herself. And Alexstrasza seemingly acting completely oblivious to everything that is happening. As all this is happening, and as Anduin is on an adventure with Wrathion, a different succession crisis is brewing in Stormwind, as Anduin is having a personal crisis over whether he is even fit to be king anymore, and whether he should even return to Stormwind at all, or remain in exile with Wrathion. And, on top of that, Moira is getting tired of dragons in her mountain, so she is plotting to maybe get rid of the black dragons for good. So far, we have Sibelian and Wrathion fighting over the heart of the first whelp, Sibelian trying to resurrect Galakrond as a chromatic dragon. Dragon aspects, each one of the dragon aspects is having a lot of problems with their dragon flight. Anduin is having a crisis in Stormwind. Moira is getting tired of dragons. We've got all of these things happening at one point, which is far too much. It's pure fanfic. It is pure fan fiction at this point. It genuinely is pure fan fiction. We've got 8 different plot points that we're trying to figure out. So, new continent. The Dragon Isle will have only 3 zones like the BFA continents. Immediately, I'm out. A Green Hill Zone, Sonic confirmed, where Wrathion and his supporters have gathered, filled with dig sites and shrines and dragon statues. A Charred Zone, where Sibelian and his supporters have gathered with new chromatic and twilight horrors and animated dragon statues, as well as Madness Domes, which switch every hour between showing the past, present and future of the section of the zone they surround. The third zone is a giant temple sunken into the ground that you can enter and exit at the bottom onto a section of Azjol Nerub. Why? What? Okay, so we've only got 3 zones. One of them has a bunch of Madness Domes, which switch every hour between showing the past, present and future of the section of the zone they surround, which is Bronze Dragon Flight. And a Green Hill Zone, where Wrathion... So we've got 2 zones, and then one which is underground. The continent is heavily inspired by Iceland. The architecture of the ruins on the island consists of mounds, pyramids and tents, all being made with petrified logs and giant bone splinters. The structures are heavily angular and slanted, and the giant temple is inspired by the Hallgrimskirkja? That's the Hallgrimskirkja, that's what I'm going with, the Hallgrimskirkja. Or Skirja. Hallgrimskirkja, maybe that's the way it's pronounced. New race, Draconid. Neutral race like the Pandaren, start at level 16, only available after completing the pre-patch party questline. New class, Chosen. No! No, we don't want any more classes. It's difficult enough as to balance them as they stand. The race is chosen in the pre-patch while the class is unlocked during the story. The Explorers League discovers a temple on the Dragon Isles where, in a later chapter, Rathian and the player find out that Moira has been bringing test subjects from across Azeroth and using a special chamber in the temple to imbue them with ancient dragon magic and turning them into Chosen. Rathian is outraged and shuts down the operation, but the citizens of Azeroth who have already become Chosen are brought by the player back to Stormwind Orgrimmar. When you make a new Chosen character, your actual character you played this quest with becomes the quest giver that gets you out of the intro experience. What? When you make a new Chosen character, your actual character you played... Oh, I see. Okay. So if I played through on my warrior and then wanted to have a Chosen, my warrior would be the quest giver from doing it? What? This is so confusing. And now we're dealing with Moira bringing test subjects. Meanwhile, she's plotting to get rid of the Black Dragons for good. So is she planning on... What is this? Good lord. Good. The class itself will have 3 specs: Life, Fire and Frost. The class in general is all about teleporting rapidly around a target to position yourself at different ranges, which make different spells available. Life is a healing spec, which does burst healing in melee range and weaker healing at ranged. Fire is all about... Well, if it's burst healing in melee range, why would you not stay in melee range all the time? That doesn't make sense. Fire is all about a damaging shield, which you can make explode, knocking you and enemies about everywhere with your shield dealing damage passively while enemies are in melee range, with diminishing returns and recharging while no enemies are in melee range. So why would you... But that sounds terrible. So what? So you come out of range to get your shield and then you go into range? Frost is all about debuffs that last less the further you are from the target, and all other attacks that hit harder the further you are from the target. So again, you're just running all of these classes. You're just running in and out. You're just running in and out of melee range of the thing. That's all you're doing. You're just running. I've just realised how bright I am. Like, that is ridiculously bright. Let's see if we can turn that down a touch. There we go. That's so strange. So you're just running in and out. You're just running in and out. New progression type, Kinship. Kinship will be a mix between Renown and Legion artifact power. Oh. That caused physical pain. That just caused physical pain. You get kinship from PvP, dungeons, raids, daily quests, exploration, solo challenges, and pretty much anything you do in the new expansion. Gaining kinship levels unlocks campaign characters, increased stats, new abilities, new passives, new mounts, gear, and dungeon and raid difficulties. The main story of the expansion will be in the single-player campaign, with raids and dungeons being entirely self-centered side stories. Each campaign chapter will have an extra hard quest at the end, which can range from a Mage Tower-style boss, a scenario like the Many Deaths of Chromie, or a variety of more difficult quests that can be done as soon as you get them with enough skill, or can be brute-forced by grinding more kinship. Many of these quests are class-specific challenges, some that require a specific ability that is unlocked at a certain level of kinship. Gear will no longer have stats in SOA and will only have passives or other abilities, plus a single stat called Inner Fire that just increases the benefits from your kinship level by a percentage based on how much Inner Fire you have. This is just so that you can't take off all your gear and be just as powerful as in full gear. All older gear will work only while in Chromie time. I'm not going to lie, this sounds like a complete and utter fucking nightmare. So gear having no stats, and it will only have passives and a single stat called Inner Fire that you can only get by grinding kinship. And then Chromie time, it's now just on, off, and is automatically on all new non-Draconoid, non-boosted characters created, and can be turned off at any time. All older gear, including tier gear and legendaries and Legion artifacts, will have their stats, abilities, and talent trees restored. It can be used at any time, but if you are level 60, you will not gain experience, and if you are above level 60, Chromie time will de-level you to level 60, and your kinship and other mechanics or abilities from SOA will be disabled. Right, but what is the highest level? It doesn't actually tell you what level it goes up to. So, if you're above level 60, Chromie time will de-level you. But why would you use it then? Completing achievements while in Chromie Time will grant you quite a good amount of kinship to incentivize players to go back and experience older expansions on their own time, and maybe even play parts of older expansions they have missed the first time around on their main characters. While in Chromie Time, you can also take part in quest chains that have otherwise been removed, like the legendary chains in Mop and Wad, and the Battle of Undercity and Wrath. A new mount will have Chromie riding with you whenever you summon it. That sounds terrible. 2 new cities, Blackrock Cold Alliance and Anderhal Horde. These 2 cities will have Zeodormi in them that will be an all-one phasing mechanic and will allow you to switch the worlds to any phase from Cataclysm to SOA, since the story will take the player all over Azeroth and Outland, and a lot of events will change the layout and inhabitants of these zones. Why am I going to Outland? Why am I suddenly going to Outland? Outland's not mentioned. Zeodormi will allow you to browse through and choose to set the whole world back to any state of the world that you have unlocked from any patch of any expansion. So I can just have Anderhal as a ruin. At the rate things are going, releasing Q1 of 2023 is just hopeful, even while anticipating crunch. I don't see how it can be released by then unless stuff gets cut and placed in a later patch. No, I can see how it doesn't get released, because it's not fucking real. That's how I can see it not being released. This is quite possibly one of the worst leaks I've ever seen. Because normally leaks have a little bit of something in there that is true. There's normally something in there that is true. This, however, is terrible. It's god-awful. This is the worst leak I've ever seen. Most likely everything in Outland, since it involves multiple zones being remade and being taken over by the Void. Where the fuck did that come from? That's not mentioned at all. And then all of a sudden, Outland being overtaken by the Void. What? Alternatively, I can see it being cut completely and being saved for 11.0 to be done properly. Then maybe even a Q4 2022 release is possible. No, I can see how they can get the expansion out before Q4 2022, and that is by not doing any of this. If they don't do any of this, then 2022, that's looking like a really solid release date. Really solid release date, Q4 2022. If they don't do any of this, because all of this is god awful, like legitimately terrible. This is just word vomit. There are so many storylines. So we've got all of these. So hang on. So let's count these off, shall we? So Sibelian is competing to become the Black Dragon aspect. Rathian is trying to find the heart of the first whelp. And Sibelian is trying to resurrect Galakrond. You've got Chromie trying to figure out what's going on, Kalik trying to figure out what's going on, Ysera trying to figure out what's going on, EXPERIMENTATION trying to figure out what's going on, Anduin is having issues, Moira is having issues, Moira is also working on dragons, we've got the Void taking over Outland, we've got Ajol Nurub that's also happening, we've got the story with the we've got like 15, 16 storylines for one expansion. That's just the first patch of one expansion. Shadows over Azeroth? Nah, that's legitimately a terrible leak. Honestly, if this is one of the leaks that turned out to be true, I'd stop playing Warcraft.